I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Here we go. It's a special edition Daily Puck Drop. It's Thursday, February 20th. We always appreciate you checking in, whether it's on the live show or later. Wherever you're at, thank you for watching and listening. YouTube, please subscribe to the channel when you're there. If you're watching it later, you're watching it live right now. You don't have to subscribe right now. And also, it's live every day on Twitter as well. Later on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. I need a dollar for every time I say this. And, of course, everything up at pucksports.com. We got a great show for you today on a Thursday. It's going to be a short, abbreviated show today. We'll explain. It's the state championships for gymnastics in the state of Washington. No, I'm not competing. But the sophomore beast mode, she is competing along with the rest of her teammates today. That's why we got the Ballard hat on today. As Ballard High School seeks their first state championship coming up in about an hour and a half from right now. We got Mike Garafolo at the top of the show. He's waiting right now. We'll talk to Michael-Shawn Dugar. We'll have a thought or two on Jerry Dipoto. We'll get into I'll explain the beauty of sports here in just a quick second after we talk to those guys. We are broadcasting from the Puck Sports Studios built by Limbach Lumber. Contractors that got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. Largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service. They've been doing it since 1930. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them online at limbachlumber.com. And, again, all the social media platforms you want to follow along. Puck Sports on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Puck_sports there on TikTok. Ladies and gentlemen, we have not just one. We have three Garafolos on the show today. Mike Garafolo joins us every single week, normally at around, I don't think it's like 10:30 when we do this on Thursdays. Ask Mike to do it at the top of the show so we get out here a little early. He's all brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area. Look at the kiddos.
Can't hear you.
I'll put you away for a second. This is my favorite part. I love when he does this. Garafolo brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area. Proudly serving the Puget Sound area since 1978. Honesty, fairness.
All right. Biff,
you're the best. You're the best. You tell Dad you're the best. You know you're the best.
can't hear
Also,
you.
Zogs on Fox Island.
You can't hear him, thank God.
The perfect spot to grab a cold beer, hang out with friends, and catch the game. Check out Zogs on Facebook. Also, Instagram for fall hours and event times.
Say bye, Puck.
Mike Garafolo.
Say bye.
Joins us from the Limbach Lumber Studios. Bye, Vivian.
Say bye, Puck.
See you,
bye.
buddy.
Say, I wish I could stay, but Dad's not letting me, so I gotta go. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. I gotta go do homework.
I don't have homework.
Yeah, I know.
Lots
That's
of homework.
pretty
No one
pathetic.
likes homework.
Pretty
I don't
pathetic.
care how old you are. It never ends. Oh, look at you, girl dad. Just doing great.
Yep. Just got back from vacation. Or as you know, the smartest thing Ian Rappaport ever said stop.
Is you need a vacation from the vacation?
No, he said they're not vacations when they're with kids, they're trips. I was like, that's the smartest thing you've ever said.
You know what?
Stop.
It's true. They are just trips.
They're just trips. They're not
because
vacations.
you're still parenting.
If they're there. It's not a vacation.
What grade is she in again?
She's in pre-K 3. Yes, Vivian. What?
Print out.
No, not right now. A little later. Okay. All right. We got to go. Seriously, dude. Okay. Everybody thinks she's adorable. Here it comes. Viv, time to go. Okay. Thank you. I love you. Bye, Uncle Puck.
See you, Viv.
Okay. You got to go. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right. Just started. She's not going anywhere.
Okay. Well, if you could franchise tag her, would you?
What's the number at her position, at her age group?
That's a good one.
Stop.
25 million, 30.
It's probably what she'll wind up costing me over the course of her life.
You know what they do? They get more expensive
Yeah,
as they get older.
Colleges and weddings.
You wait till she discovers Starbucks.
Starbucks, huh?
You wait till
she has discovered Starbucks. She had a cake pop yesterday.
Oh yeah, but I'm just like when they really discovered. I took the 15-year-old in there today, and it's just it's a mortgage now for a Starbucks. Like, what are we doing? I don't know why we're spending so much money.
Okay, take it. Here, scissors. Take the scissors. Go.
Yeah, scissors. Run around the house with scissors.
Yes, run with them. Go crazy.
Is she more like you or mom?
Huh?
Is she more like you or mom?
She's more like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Runs a little hot.
Runs a lot hot. But I've told Jess that the intensity of her tantrums is me. The length is her.
Oh, so you're short and quick. God,
yeah, I'm
you
over
and I are
quickly,
exactly alike.
She takes forever to get over it. So
yeah. Well,
that's her mommy.
Yeah, that's it. Where do you want to start? What's the big news this week in the NFL? The salary cap's going up again. How many? It just keeps going up, like every year.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it's gotta. You would think. I mean, look. So then they add the 18th game, and then that's more revenue, and that's how they're going to get the players on that. Is that it's going to be. Another week of you playing, but look at all this money. I mean, that's how they got them on 17. And the thought was once you get them to 17, you're going to get them to 18. So, that's the thought process on that one. And they're going to get there eventually, and it'll be another influx of revenue, and it'll raise the cap even more. It's, they're doing it for all the things that I can along the way say, is this necessary? It all generates revenue. Right. And then in the end, they get to say every year the cap's going up because the revenue is going up. So that's where we are.
Where's Carmen at, by the way?
She bailed right before you brought me up. So
see, because Carmen gets it. She's older. She understands it's show business time for Daddy.
I think she was just getting bored. Like it just said we were backstage and she was waiting, and she just she's like, I've had enough.
Is she more? If you had to pick one of the two that would maybe follow in your footsteps, who would it be?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, they all like Vivian says she wants to be a baker. She wants to bake desserts because she likes to eat desserts.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's real. I don't know when you start listening to your kids. They're like, yeah, she may be what she's saying, or
Sure.
I mean, my sister famously, I don't know what grade she was in. She hasn't lived this down yet. My parents remind her all the time. She said she wanted to be a cashier. That was her. All the kids were, rocket, astronaut, president. My sister wanted to be a cashier. Lawyer. Yeah,
it reminds me of a funny story. This just came up. I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. My son, who's 11, we got in a discussion. What do you want to do? And he goes, "Yeah, be garbage truck driver." And you got to be careful how you answer that one, right? Because I'm like, that's a solid work. That's a solid job. That's a necessary job. I don't want to put anybody down that I love the guys that pick up my garbage. And I just said to him, hey, can we aim a little higher? Just a little higher. Nothing against the guys that are driving around garbage truck. I don't want to offend anyone that does that.
Right.
Please.
Right, but you didn't need any school for that, and you put them through all the school. And you could have skipped all that. In fact, you could have started earlier.
We can start now. We can get you. We can get you an early license. You can start driving nice. Let's just go a little bit higher. But hey, if that's your fallback plan, that's your fallback plan. Okay.
Everybody needs a safety school.
Everybody needs a safety job. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. I like cashier. Did your sister end up being a cashier?
No, she got her master's. She's a teacher. She works in the school. She's
yeah.
And after school, she goes to the supermarket, and they don't have cashiers. They have just the automated thing.
I know. We've made those people obsolete now with the self-checkout stuff.
Yeah.
Although you still need the one person there because there's always the person in the self-checkout that doesn't know how it works, and then the red light goes on because they've done something wrong, and then that poor person's got to come over there.
Through no fault of my own, sometimes I'm like, I'm a smart guy, and even I need the help from that person.
Well, sometimes it's tricky, right?
Sometimes it's like you scan, there's two barcodes and you accidentally scan the wrong one.
Yeah.
There's some kind of manufacturer's barcode and then a store barcode or whatever. I've done that. That set it off. Sometimes I've scanned it. It didn't beep. and I hit it again, and then it double scans, and you're like, I didn't mean to do, yeah. And again, I'm a smart guy.
Put something wrong, like you put something too early in the bag, and all of a sudden, no, you didn't scan that. You didn't scan that. Why
sometimes
is that in the
kids, and sometimes the kids will drop something in the area. It's like unscanned item, So yeah.
I don't know if I could do a cashier. The way that people treat the cashiers nowadays, not worth it. Not worth it.
The way that people treat everybody. Days, my goodness.
It's bad. It really is bad.
They're garbage men. They're cashiers.
Yeah,
they're insiders. Some of the comments I get on Twitter, some guy complained that the news wasn't big enough the other day when I posted something. Must be the offseason. It is. Way to go, Einstein. You cracked the code.
How do you respond to those?
I don't. And okay. I don't even read them. Again, I'm making Rappaport sound like a genius, but this is the second one. The second one that he said he's probably up to like 4, but I can only remember 2. And the second one, because I already gave you the first one, the trips, vacation thing.
Yeah.
The second one was don't read the comments. And I was like, yeah, but no.
It's so hard.
Don't read them.
Though. It's hard.
Don't read them. There's not, and I feel bad because at some point when he finally got through to me, I'm like, I'm just not going to read them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read them.
Yeah.
And at some point when he finally got through to me and I'd accidentally read one and I'd be like, well, he was right. Every time I dip in, I go, well, let me just see how the water is now. And I go, no, it's actually worse.
You idiot.
It's hotter.
You know what I find though? If you respond back,
you can't win.
No. But you diffuse. There's a way to diffuse it.
No.
Really. Well, just trust me on this one. You just
there's
say,
not.
If somebody calls you a name, you say, hey, sorry you feel that way, but thanks for listening and following. And then I swear to God, 9 times out of 10, they'll go, oh, well, I didn't mean it. It was a bad day. They're not expecting you to respond.
Right. So why are you responding to that if it's not even genuine?
I don't know, because it's fun. It's a little game I like to play.
When Twitter started X, which is a dumb name for an app.
Just call it Twitter. I don't like calling it X. Twitter sounds better.
It's like, well, I posted on X. Like, change it from Twitter to something that sounds like another app. But X does not sound like another app. When it started to really, because when it first started, it was like, oh, like this interaction with people. It's
fun.
Great.
Yeah.
But when it really started to take a dive, I was like, who are these people? Like, who are these people?
Yeah.
Who are these people? And then my uncle signed up for Twitter. And I started to see some of his replies.
Is it the same uncle that hates the Eagles or Roseman?
Used to, yes.
Okay.
Yes, used to.
Now he's
back. And his comments like fit right in the way he was responding to Pro Football Talk and Awful Announcing and all these. And I was like, wow, they just read that. That's who these people are. They're Uncle Pete. No idea. Had no idea. Thought they were raging psychopaths. Apparently, they're normal people.
Yeah.
And then when you say like you diffuse them, the only way to diffuse them is to meet them in real life, right? And they'd never say any of this to your face, right?
Sure.
The old who did it? Was it Jimmy Kimmel did the skit where Robbie Cano was going back to New York? Did you ever see that one?
No, and he would confront people
after he signed with the Mariners. It was his first game back in New York, and they had this big picture of him.
Yes.
And they were like, "You tell Robbie Cano what you think about him, right? Bo, you suck." And then he would walk out from behind. Oh, hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
100%. I gotta go back. I do vaguely remember that now. Yeah, because of course that's how it is, though. That's how everybody is. So we have this thing because you're being an old sports radio guy. You'll appreciate this.
Yeah.
So in radio now, we still had it a year ago when I was working there. No one calls anymore. There's like Philadelphia probably is the only place that still takes phone calls, and I don't know, maybe in New York at the Fan, but out here, like just no one takes phone calls anymore.
Really?
None. It's not a thing at all.
Wow.
It's just no. And, and that's weird, right? Because that's what sports radio is all about on WIP, the Fan. It's phone calls. But it's been replaced by a text machine where we have this separate machine where you text into the show.
Right.
And it's the worst because you can't see their names. You don't hear their voices. It's just a number. And I mean, the shit that used to be said on that thing, you're like, oh, my God. Like, I mean, vile, because there is no Twitter handle. There's nothing. It's just a number. I mean, there's a couple times, like, long time ago, I would call the number and be like, listen up, you son of a bitch. Would you come on down here? I mean, it was bad. That's the worst. That's the worst.
And what kind of response would you get?
I'm sorry. I just, it's just a bad day.
Bad
Just
day,
bad
yeah.
day. My bad. My bad. Just a bad day. I didn't mean anything by it. Whatever. Yeah, the life of it. So, I don't know. We went in the salary cap keeps going up.
Well,
18
look,
days.
here's where we are. Okay. Combine starts on Monday,
Yeah.
or at least I get there on
You
Monday.
cover that, right?
Yeah. We'll be there Monday to Thursday. We've got insider shows on NFL Network.
Great.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have interviews with some GMs and head coaches. John Schneider did a great job with us last year. In fact, gave us a nickname, the Outsiders, he called us, which was great. That kind of stuck. It was my fantasy football team name this year, with a picture of me and John together. So he was a good guest. Nick Casario was a great guest last year. So we're gonna have some guests this year. And look, it's when stuff starts to become solidified. Right now, it's kind of like, if you ask me what's the deal with the Rams and Matthew Stafford, since the playoffs, it's kind of been like, I don't know, man, this could be it. I think it might be it. I think it's run
we
its course.
talked about it last week. It feels very real because they hired his friend, his buddy, the Giants did.
Yeah. But that Chad Hall was with the Giants guys in Buffalo. Everybody blew past that. Was like, oh wow, it's Matthew Stafford's brother-in-law. Yeah, but also a guy that they knew because they worked with him in Buffalo, where Matthew Stafford didn't play. Take a breath, everybody. Yeah. So, but now it'll start to get more solidified. You'll get a bunch of non-answers, but you'll get some answers next week. And even in the non-answers, you can start to kind of figure out between. And this is where they're going to have their meetings. Whether it's Matthew Stafford or Kirk Cousins and the Falcons have had no communication. I mean, they maybe in the last 2 days, I haven't checked, but as of a couple of days ago, still had no communication. They will there. Because a lot of times, these agents have multiple clients, and it's like, well, they want to meet on this guy. And then also, oh, yeah, by the way, what about one of the great stories of all time was Sean O'Hara and Michael Strahan were repped by the same guy. And the Giants tried to meet, the O'Hara's reps met with the Giants at the scouting combine. And Jerry Reese was the GM at the time. And Jerry was very early in maybe in his first year as GM. In fact, I think it was. And Jerry wasn't good at the whole, like, I got to deal with agents now. And so they had this meeting and Jerry just blew, just like out of the meeting, gone. And then like everybody, they still had to like clean up the pieces and, okay, well, don't worry. We'll come back on that. It's like, no, this was your chance. And like, Sean's going to be a free agent. He's going to hit the market. They go to meet with Jerry and company the day before free agency about Strahan to lay the groundwork for, because they rep Strahan as well, to say, hey, Michael wants a raise. And it's if not, he's not going to show. And so he didn't show up for training camp. If you remember, it was his last camp. He didn't show up as the whole story. And so that day and on the way out the door, I was like, oh, by the way, what about O'Hara? And they said, well, we tried to talk to you at the combine. We wanted, X, Y, or Z. And Jerry was like, well, we can do that. Well, we tried to have that conversation 2 weeks ago at the combine. So anyway, that's a long way of me saying that's kind of how it, you're meeting about. And by the way, okay, so can we finally talk about the quarterback here? That Cousins will get clarity, Derek Carr will get clarity, Matthew Stafford will get clarity, and at that point you'll start to understand what we're going to have as we get closer to free agency. Might have some resolutions. Might have say, look, we're moving on from whether it's Carr or Stafford or whatever, and that news will trickle out. So we're inside a week to actually figuring out what the heck is going to start to happen here in the NFL as we get closer to the start of the league here.
Do you expect to talk to Schneider again
on the show?
Yeah.
I don't know. Our requests are in. It's like, when can we fit in? Our show is at night now. It was during the day.
Yeah.
Last year, if I'm not mistaken, were we still during the day?
Well, when you see him, you have you seen him lately? I got a tweet from a guy. He is turning into Sasquatch. Look at this. Can you see that? Look at him.
Hey, what the Puck Sports is going on with John Schneider? He's transforming into Sasquatch.
Look at him. He looks just like him.
I saw him in Mobile, didn't I? I think I saw him at the Senior Bowl. I think he was pretty well kept.
Hey, if he wasn't a GM in the NFL or a president, what would he be doing? I know what he is. He's a gun smuggler.
A gun smuggler.
He's smuggling weapons.
Do you have to smuggle guns? I thought the Republicans.
He's an arms dealer. Yeah, he's an arms dealer.
What's Jim's comment? Hey, Robbie, if we can get him to part his hair the other way,
they'll be identical twins. Yeah. No, he looked like he'd be an arms dealer for, I don't know, some Eastern European country.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one to place because it's like 3 different looks in one, right? Like the beard doesn't match the hair. The beard is actually unkempt. The hair is kempt.
Yeah, and the beard's kind of all over the place. We got the button right there is fighting for its life to stay connected. We got the chain. Yeah, the glasses, the whole look. We love him.
Tracy loves him, though. Have you met Tracy?
Everybody loves him. Yes, everybody.
He's the best.
Everybody enjoys him. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. I'm sure there's some Seahawks fans who don't like him. But
if I do, I'll raise the point to him and tell him you said hello. How about that?
Yeah, please do. Franchise tag. It's open. It closes March 4th. What is there? Who's going to be a big name? Is there going to be a big name out there that's going to get franchised? No one with the Seahawks because they never use it. But
they haven't used it before.
I think he's used it once or twice, and I think one time he used it on a kicker. Like he
really?
Never uses it ever.
I mean, T. Higgins will be which. Sometimes I laugh about the players like, oh, how dare you give me the franchise? I want the long-term deal. If I was a player and I trusted myself, especially if I played at a position I guess quarterback is one of the safer ones with all the rules you've got. But I'm trying to think of like in terms of, if you play out 2 franchise tags and then do a long-term deal, that's awesome. That's the best way to do it. I'd prefer that way. I mean, it's all kinds of evens out, right? Like, let's say you're 4 years in, you do a deal. Yeah, at the end of your 4 years where your rookie deal runs out, we'll say it's a non-first rounder. 1, 2, 3 years, then you're probably redoing it again versus like you play out the tag, then you do a deal. And at the end of that deal, maybe you get a small one, depending on how long you play. Like it kind of all sort of evens out anyway. Yeah, like there's all this hand wringing and like, oh, this player's not going to be happy. Because sometimes I think like, they tag me. That's great. If I don't sign it, I don't have to show up for anything and I can't get fined.
Right.
That's a good thing. Take the entire spring off. Take training camp off. Take it all off. Who cares? Right? Like,
I'm kind of with you. Think Kirk Cousins doesn't like the franchise tag? How much money
Kirk Cousins
that
loves
guy?
the franchise
Of course
tag.
He does. He's made so much money over the years.
Oh my goodness. If you could play it out that way, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially because their first offer, I remember to Kirk, the Washington, whatever they were at the time, was $12.5 million a year. And then he played out a tag up for what was it, 15 and then 20, and then signed a fully guaranteed 3-year deal, which turned into another fully guaranteed deal, which turned into a not a horrible negotiation, which allowed him to go to Atlanta for 2 more guaranteed years. I understand at this point now, it's not about the money. It's about an opportunity to play. And he's upset with everything that went down in Atlanta the way it did, but the Falcons and the way that he played proved that was the right call for Atlanta. So, yeah, it's anyway. We're T. Higgins probably going to be the biggest name in the free or the franchise tag. I saw that the Chiefs are not. I haven't honestly until the back end of the window.
Yeah,
I don't even start to make these calls or ask about these things because nobody gets tagged till the end of the 2-week window anyway. But I saw Trey Smith not going to get tagged, is what they're saying out in Kansas City, which makes sense because he's an interior offensive lineman, which it's like the tackles drive the price up. So I was looking at the free agent names. It should be a relatively interesting free agent period. There's enough big names out there, especially Eagles got a couple of guys, Mekhi Becton and Zach Bond. Zach Bond was a 1-year nothing signing and turned himself into an all-pro double-digit per year kind of guy. It's going to be interesting to see where he lands.
When we go back to the quarterbacks for a second, and we mentioned Matt Stafford, and I'm certainly this is going to apply to Geno Smith, and probably then there's a trickle-down effect with Stafford and then Cousins. Who is the first domino around the NFL that you watch for? Is Stafford the first one to kind of fall, and then everything kind of goes from there?
Yeah, I mean, on the free agent market, it's going to be Darnold.
Yeah.
But you're talking about guys that could potentially be traded. I think Derek Carr, not that he'd be the first target for teams, but he's going to be in that. There are too many teams that need a quarterback, right? Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers is probably going to get a job if he wants a job because there's too many teams that have a need at this point. So, I think the dominoes of, Stafford might not be traded until the start of the league year or something like that, but you may hear that Derek Carr is going to pop free here. You may hear that Kirk Cousins, he's going to be free because Atlanta's saying we're not going to play the game of chicken, although I think they will. They can keep him up and through that roster bonus that they owe him, because you see the way the salary cap's going up. I hate to say this, but $10 million is a drop in the bucket if you're holding out for the chance to actually trade a guy rather than just release him. So, it's I think Stafford from the trade standpoint could be the first domino to fall.
Aaron Rodgers, what's his market? I mean, are teams banging down his door, knocking it hard? Hey, we need Aaron Rodgers in our building.
Knocking. I mean, you said two different things: banging down and knocking. I think they're knocking. No, I did.
I did.
And it's two different things because, he's an option for teams if they go, well, we're kind of looking at this guy and this guy, if that doesn't happen, then maybe we'll turn to Rodgers.
Is it worth it? Is it worth all of it?
For who? Him?
No, for the team. Is he worth it? Is he worth the headache that comes with Aaron Rodgers and the baggage of it? And
I thought about this because the Jets, supposedly had the conversation with him. There was no ultimatum necessarily of like, you need to stop. You can't tell a guy to stop doing interviews, right?
Is that what he was? They asked him, is that the story? No. They asked him to stop doing McAfee?
They did not.
Okay.
No, they did not. Now it was the whole discussion of like, what's this year going to be like across the board with him, and media and stuff was part of that conversation. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, the Jets were like, you know what? We're just going to cut the cord here. So I think that when the level of play drops and then he goes to his third team and it's not in the New York market, let's just hypothetically, which, and it doesn't make sense to me in a lot of ways, but hypothetically, the Titans, he goes to Tennessee. Okay. That doesn't ring the bell, right? And so doesn't that now take a little bit of the shine away from what he's doing on McAfee and what he's doing elsewhere? And this Netflix documentary, is it even out yet? I didn't see it. I'm sure a bunch of people didn't watch it.
Oh, well, does he have something coming up about him and his family?
I don't know. Right. And you know what? I don't have to know.
I'm watching the documentary on Netflix right now about Black Hawk Down. God almighty. You want to watch that one? Jesus.
The movie was enough.
But this is the real life. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah.
I didn't know of any I just, it's not worth it for him. His play's diminished, and I don't know why you want to bring him on. He doesn't make the Titans a Super Bowl contender.
He doesn't. That's why I'm saying that didn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But I mean, could he go to LA? Could he be with the Rams? Now that'll raise the
Stafford left to the Giants.
Right. If Stafford goes anywhere, then could he go to the Rams? Yeah, sure. And he'd probably go there for a lot cheaper. So rather than have to give Matthew Stafford a lot of money, and you feel like maybe Rodgers' production might be on par with that for a much lower number, it could be in the conversation.
Let me ask you a stupid one that you're going to shoot me down, okay? His dream is to play for the 49ers, I bet.
Right.
Would the 49ers ever entertain it?
No. Rather than extend Brock Purdy, no.
Yeah.
Nope.
I'm just curious because he's got the whole draft night. He's from there and finished his career there. But I was just curious about it. I'm with you. I don't know. He's out of options, and I just don't know why would you want to bring that on? All right. So this whole quarterback stuff, the cap's going up and all that. You start looking around at how much money these guys make. I mean, if you're Geno's, who's got the advantage right now? Is it Team Geno or Team Seahawks? Team Schneider?
Probably Team Schneider. I mean, I don't think Geno's got a lot of. It's just back to where we were a couple of years ago. He doesn't have a lot of options, right? Yeah. So you can pay him. And now you could try to flip that by holding out and playing hardball if you're Geno.
Yeah,
it's hard to not have your quarterback for training camp, right? But in the meantime, do they draft somebody? Do they sign somebody? They got to be understanding that as well, right? So
doesn't he have leverage though over them?
Geno?
Yeah, because he could be his agent and his side could be like, who's your option? Sam Howell? You going to draft somebody?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they draft somebody and they feel good about it, and that guy winds up getting reps during training camp, it depends. I mean, I would, if I'm them, make the move for a new deal as sooner as possible. If I'm Geno, right?
Yeah.
Do it now, because you can see the landscape out there, and you can see there's not enough quarterbacks to fill all the chairs that are open right now.
Has there been any buzz about it at all? About deal?
What?
A new deal for Geno?
Not that I've heard, but this is the kind of stuff that can happen at the scouting combine. So I'm sure there'll be meetings there.
7 international games next season. That's
7.
Just another. Are you going to be able to cover? What's the latest one? Are they going to Brazil? What's that one I just saw?
Brazil, Ireland, Spain, Berlin, and 3 London. So that's 7. Yeah.
All right. So do you get to go to any of these? And if you
No.
could go to, well, Spain would be the one, right?
London. No, I go to Spain enough. I got a sister-in-law in Spain.
Okay.
Did I say London? Ireland. That's where I want to go.
Ireland. Yeah. Ireland would be a good one.
Yeah, give me Ireland. Give me Ireland. Yeah.
That's going to be a rowdy one.
It'll be fun.
That's
Yeah. Bring your clubs.
Yeah, that's right. Bring the clubs.
Yeah, the insiders have been angling to go to Ireland.
You're all golfers.
Yeah, but I'd put it at a 0.0% chance that the 3 of us would be allowed to go. We'd have to be on separate flights, like the president and vice president, right?
Yeah.
You can't put us all 3 of us in the same flight.
Last thing, you're a hockey fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, you watch tonight?
Of course.
Is it appointment setting for you to watch U.S. and Canada?
Yes, and the anthem booing stuff is like, stop.
Oh, God, Jim and we got into this one.
Oh, my God.
No,
what did you say?
He can't understand why the U.S. would be upset, why the players would be upset. And I just tried to explain. I said, well, I don't think it's everything. I don't think that's the whole reason why they started the fight in the first game. But, I mean, you're playing for your country, and the national anthem's playing. And Canada's got every right to boo. I see both sides. I understand why they're booing. I totally get it. And because of the political climate. And
right.
I understand it. But I also understand the players are going like, F, because this had been going on before in the NHL, in the Canadian cities in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. They're like, F it. We're going to start a fight right away.
Yeah.
So I get it. I love it. I love all of this.
Well,
I'm not a huge hockey fan, and I'm really looking forward to tonight.
I do appreciate how the national pride, because these guys have not been playing and practicing with each other, right? No. It's just kind of like, oh, by the way, here's a little mini tournament you got to be ready for.
Yeah.
So it's not a cohesive type thing as if they were getting ready for the Olympics and playing together for 2 weeks. So I do appreciate how it's the drop of a hat that pride was there. I would also say that I would venture to guess the political leanings of that locker room would lean strongly in one direction.
Oh, for sure.
That has led to those boos
but I
from
think
the Canadian fans.
I think it's one thing when you put on whatever, the sweater, the jersey, and it has your country across it. There's just something changes in you. I just watched, speaking of documentaries, I just finished the last night, the hour and a half one the HBO just did on the team that beat the Dream Team. We beat the Dream Team. It's a great documentary about the 1992 college players that scrimmaged the Dream Team.
Yeah.
And the first scrimmage, they beat them. But they don't publicize any of it because they didn't want anyone to know that they beat them. But it's great. And it's just, and then the Dream Team comes back and beats them by like 1,000 or something. But just to see how the pride that these guys had, that collection of 10 of the greatest players to ever play in the history of the game.
Yep.
Just put everything aside because they were playing for the country. And
it's
weird because you see it in baseball, you see it in hockey, you see it in the NBA. It's the one sport that doesn't really ever get to do that is the NFL. They never can do it.
Well, you're talking about the international games, and maybe one day they will. I mean, that's the point of all this, is to grow the game globally. I mean, we may be looking at it one day and saying, like, can you believe the salary cap used to be under 300 million? Now it's up to 700 million.
Yeah.
That's their goal. That's what they want to do. They're on their way. The international stuff is working. I mean, listen, as we get to closer to the 18th game and everybody has an international game, which some of them may wind up being, Toronto or something relatively close. You'd have 16 international games a year. Right now they're at 7. They're halfway there, basically. So.
Well, when Vivian is covering the sport for you, doing your role for the
probably Viv, probably
the new
Viv
look
over
insiders at the NFL Network covering the Madrid Marauders.
Vivian and Dylan Schefter going at it for scoops.
All right, you're the best. Go back to the kiddos, and we'll talk to you down the line.
You got it.
There he is, Mike Garafolo, NFL Network, all brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. Honesty, fairness, and integrity. Contact Jamie Hartley, 253-565-8700. Also, Zogs on Fox Island, the perfect spot to grab a cold beer, hang out with friends, and catch the game. Check out Zogs on Facebook and Instagram for their new hours. And again, Mike Garafolo joining us weekly from the Limbach Lumber Studios. I'm going to jump over to Jerry Dipoto because I'll get to that in a second, but it does tie in the beauty of sports of what we just kind of talked about right there with Garafolo before we talk to Michael-Shawn Dugar. And as we caught up with Dugar earlier today, I recorded him this morning, is the beauty of sports. And I think the beauty of sports will be on display tonight. I don't think you got to be a huge hockey fan to appreciate what's about to happen this evening. Because I think when you've got countries going against each other, whether the relations are frosty between the two or friendly, and there certainly are friendly between our two countries, and I know that the political climate has altered that to a degree, and that's a backdrop of this game tonight. I just think tonight is going to be fantastic theater, and I, for one, admit I'm not the biggest hockey fan in the world, but something like this pulls a lot of people in because it's your country. It's Team USA versus Team Canada. I think for those maybe who aren't basketball fans or NBA fans, I bet some of you were pulled in to watch Team USA against France. And I know we complain about the effort level a lot from these guys. The effort level, there was no debate at the effort level at this Paris Olympics with Steph Curry and LeBron James and all those guys on that team, because it was all out for the entire 40 minutes of that game. And because they wanted to win. They wanted to win for the country. It means something to them. Highly recommend to go watch We Beat the Dream Team documentary on HBO. It's a great one. I refer to it also here with Michael-Shawn Dugar, who, again, we caught up with Dugar earlier this morning to talk about the Seahawks offseason. We started off about salary cap talk because the salary cap is going up. Mike has just written a story about the salary cap, people that will be affected with the Seahawks, who goes, who stays. Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic. Week we talk a little Seahawks with Michael-Shawn Dugar. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike Dugar. Read all of his work at The Athletic. Listen to him. Podcast with our guy Chris Kidd, co-host of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, all brought to you by Georgetown's Tavern Beer, easy drinking domestic style lager with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops. 4.2% brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's and Bodie's Offa. Michael-Shawn Dugar, ladies and gentlemen, from the Limback Lumber Studios. Mike, how are you? How's your off season so far?
So far, so good. Very quiet on the Seahawks front. They haven't woken me up at 6 a.m. because there was some transaction of sort. Now, guaranteed, I probably just jinxed it.
Yes, you
but
did.
Until then, so far, so good.
Okay, good. It's amazing. I know we've probably talked about this before. It really is amazing that back in the day, I'm sure Condota could tell you this. Back in his day, there actually was an off season, where you could kind of go away and relax a little bit. But God, the NFL, it's not like that anymore.
No, I have all the Twitter alerts for like Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, and all those guys. Now, you have to. I got burned one time. I was asleep when they traded Marshawn to the Raiders. It was a very small transaction. Yeah. I think it was 2017. He had unretired, but it was at like 6 a.m. Pacific, and I was asleep. Slept, didn't wake up. Since then, I wake up every day at like 7.
Condota's been up since 3 a.m, just grinding away on that computer, where you can hear it from 10 miles away. It really is. It's amazing the beast that it is turned into. Hey, let's start first with the franchise tag is open. It's open till March 4th, I believe. It opened up this week. They're not planning on using that, right?
No, John Schneider seems to be very against the use of the franchise tag, which is fine. I think that it's not a good thing. I think that separately, the NFLPA really needs to work harder to get rid of that. Like, it's just an obvious case of wage suppression that they should fight for much harder than they fight for something like getting rid of marijuana testing, for instance. I think their priorities are a little out of whack there over at the union. But yeah, I think he's only used it a couple times, once on a kicker. So, it's not very often that he used it, which makes sense. The only candidate I think would be Ernest Jones this year. But it's weird, the way they do the franchise tag, they don't separate linebackers. So Ernest Jones,
include them all.
He's under the same tag as like TJ Watt, right? The franchise tag number for quote unquote linebackers is like 28 million or something, 27 million.
That didn't seem fair.
Yeah, so you just basically can't tag inside linebackers, even if you wanted to, because you were basically be paying them like an edge rusher, which is just not how the game works at all.
Where are we at with Ernest Jones and potentially a new deal?
I would be, now that they know the salary cap, or at least have a an official number. I'm sure in their little GM owner circles, they were kind of aware if that would go up and what the number would probably be. That's why you pay a cap guy so that he's in the know on these type of things. But now that we have some maybe public clarity that the number will be somewhere between 277 and 281 million, I believe. Let's assume that it's just right in the middle, like 279.5 or something like that. I think that clarity will help with a lot of like the negotiations. I imagine we'll see some moves come in here. Probably like right before the combine, which is next week, or like almost immediately after, with guys who are incumbent guys, like guys who are returning to their own team. I think if you're going to go to a new team, that'll have to wait. But like guys like Ernest or guys like who are on the other team, or on their team trying to make sure they come back at the right number. Now that we know that number, I would expect that pretty soon, honestly, because there's no reason to wait. Like Ernest basically said after they beat the Rams, like, yo, I want to be here. I want to be here before I even hit free agency. John Schneider said last week on the radio, he was like, yeah, we got close, but it sounds like Ernest's guys want to test free agency and see what the market is. I'm not calling John a liar, but like Ernest has expressed on multiple occasions that like he wants to be here, just wants to feel like he should get what he deserves. He's a guy who's been traded twice already. He's got a little kid at the crib with his wife. Like, he's definitely not a guy who just wants to pick up and move again. So I imagine that he'll want to get this done fairly soon, just so he has some security. Getting traded twice in a couple of months sucks. And it wasn't like he was getting traded from Everett to Kent. Got traded from LA to Nashville to Seattle. That sucks, man.
Yeah, who wins in that trade, Everett or Kent?
Probably Everett, I guess, but
Kent does have. Listen, I was a Renton guy, but certainly spent some time in Kent, so that's more near and dear to my heart than Everett. Everett used to be a big deal back in the day, kind of fallen on some tough times, kind of waterfront. There's a waterfront element to Everett that I think probably gives it a leg up. Kent does have Kent cornucopia days, but that's taken a hit the last 10 years. I don't know.
Well, the thing about
sure
Kent,
if I would take Kent or Everett in that situation.
I was telling my homie who was looking for somewhere to live. This was years ago. I was just, because he wasn't from here. I was telling him, I was like, dude, Kent is so weird, man. Because he saw some nice houses like online. I was like, Kent's weird, man. Like if you go east in Kent for a little bit, you're like, oh man, this is nice. Like there's houses and golf courses and like nice schools and stuff like that. You just go west for about 10 minutes. And it's just like, where the hell am I? Who are these people at the bus stop? Why are they holding aluminum foil? It's like what is going on in this portion of the city? It's a very weird. It's a very weird.
You don't
space
understand how much more time I could spend on this if you wanted to just do who wins in a trade with Everett and Kent. God, that's a good one. We got sidetracked there. You're right. So Ernest Jones, he wasn't moved. He wasn't traded from Everett to Kent. What if they don't get something done? What if he signs elsewhere?
Oh, that'd be a huge blunder. I think,
wouldn't it?
Because it's just so obvious the impact that he had. It's very similar to Quandre Diggs when he arrived in 2019. It was just so obvious, not just on the field, but just like his peers and his coaches. It just felt like a sigh of relief in 2019. It's not necessarily to shade Tedrick Thompson and Marquise Blair, but it was just so obvious how much better Quandre was at playing the position of free safety. And it just made his teammates so much more comfortable knowing like, okay, I'm good because number 37, which is what he was wearing at the time, because number 37's got my back. He's going to have the post, he's going to have the seams. And it just made everyone play with a different level of confidence, knowing they could trust the guy next to them. Ernest had the same effect, just mentally on his teammates. It was like, okay, Byron Murphy can do his thing or Jaron Reed can do his thing, knowing that, hey, I just take up this gap and 13 will make the play. Like I could trust that. And that level of trust was just so huge because they didn't have it with Tyrell Dodson. They didn't have it with Jerome Baker. Right. Very similar to when they didn't have it with Tedrick and Marquise in 2019. And they made a priority to pay Quandre. I think they gave him like $13 million to come when his deal was up, even after breaking his leg, I believe. And I think that Ernest will probably in that same range, 12 to 30. I was crunching some numbers the other night, looking at contracts and salary and signing bonuses and guarantees and everything. I would guess Ernest comes in at probably like that 12, 13 million range. 13 gets you in like the top 5. It's like Patrick Queen money, and 12 gets you a little bit over guys like Azeez Al-Shaair, who's a really good linebacker. I think that's probably where Ernest is. I don't know if the Seahawks see him that way, but if just looking at it objectively, that's probably where I would slot him.
Okay. I'm with you. Yeah, if they didn't get that done, that would just be. You're right. 100% would just be a disaster on the organization, especially giving up what was it, a 4th round pick?
They gave up a 4th round pick and they gave up Jerome Baker, which isn't steep, but it's not like they have a great track record with finding inside linebackers, right? Like think of all the swings they took to try and replace Bobby and KJ with Shaquem Griffin and Ben Burke-Irvin and Cody Barton. Jordan Brooks was a hit in my mind, but they didn't think so, and then they go get Tyrell Dotson and Jerome Baker. You do all these things to find, your Bobby Wagner successor, and you just couldn't. You have one. He's in the building. He wants to be here. I just saw him on their Twitter account, hanging with some UFC guys in the locker room. Like he's here still, clearly, like I say, he don't want to keep moving around. So, I mean, you got to pay that dude. I think it'll get done. I don't think he'll get like top 5 linebacker money, but I think the floor has to be, at least like top 10 linebacker money, which is around, I believe, like 10 million.
All right, so the cap is going to, we talked about at the beginning, the cap's going to go up. It was 255. Now it's going to be anywhere between 277 and 281. Now, the good news is for the Seahawks, they were in kind of cap purgatory. Now, it goes up for them. I guess the bad news is it goes up for everyone else. How does this, I would assume this doesn't adjust their plans. They knew it was going to go up, and they knew that they've got some tough decisions to make. Let's get into what are those tough decisions that they need to make in terms of trimming the fat off the roster right now.
I think beyond just trimming the fat, I just think there are like 5 contracts that you just have to touch. No matter what you do with them, you got to touch them. I would say Geno is number 1. His cap hit is huge. I think it's like the 10th highest in the league or something like that.
Let's save him. Let's save him. But I'm with you. Okay.
So
let's save him to discuss it a little bit later.
Okay. DK, you got to touch. Tyler, Draymond. I think those you just have to do something. Whether you cut, whatever, you just have to do something. Chenna, I would say as well, you have to do something. Like no matter what, you just have to make a move with those guys. And then just in terms of pure trimming, I think it's very obvious. Rayshon Jenkins is one. I would actually call it Draymond's pretty obvious. I would call Tyler's obvious. As well. And
obvious that obvious with Draymond and Tyler, they'll just simply cut them.
Yeah, I think that even if you want those guys back, that number is probably just untenable, and you save quite a bit. I don't think you have to worry about dead money too much. Different owners look at dead money differently. Sometimes just like, well, we were paying that. We've already cut the check for the dead money. So like sometimes, so whether the number is 50 million or 5 million, like we've already cut the check for it. So it kind of depends on just how the owner feels about that, like paying that when the guy's not there. Some owners view that differently. But yeah, Tyler, I think you save like 17 million or something like that. Draymond, I think, is another 8-figure savings. And again, you can bring these guys back, which I wouldn't be opposed to, but those numbers with what you want to do to build the rest of the team just seem untenable.
It doesn't. Just let's start with Tyler. It doesn't seem like that's going to be a reality. He's going to come into the season, as you wrote. Again, Mike wrote all about this at The Athletic. Go read it. Just breaking down all of these guys, what their age is going into the season, their cap hit, savings by releasing them, their dead money. It's a great read up there at The Athletic. Just search it there when you get a subscription. If you don't, sign up, because I'm going to tell you right now. And if you wait a week, you'll get a $1 off. Trust me, there's always deals at The Athletic. I'm telling you, every single week there's a deal. All right, so for Lockett, as you wrote, again, cap hit about 31 million, 30.9. Savings by releasing him or trading him is 17 million. It just seems the writing's been on the wall that they'll part ways. Writing's also been on the wall that he wants to continue to play, that he'd like to still play. With this new offensive coordinator, seems the philosophy of the offense is shifting, and maybe the use for an older third wide receiver doesn't seem to be a priority for Clint Kubiak in this group.
The offense still needs a third wide receiver, but yeah, it's just where that falls on the priority. The more I look at Clint's offense, the more I've had time to check it out in the offseason, it just doesn't feel like forget the team's perspective, if Tyler wants more targets, this is probably not the offense. Just honestly, damn his age. If he was 26, like just being behind Jackson and DK is just probably unappealing for any guy who wants to show what they can do outside of being a rookie or something like that. But if you're someone who's used to getting 70, 80 targets or whatever, like playing with Jackson and DK is not, this is just not where you want to be. That's for all of the veteran receivers, honestly, unless you're just content, like, hey, I may get like 50 balls this year. Cool. If you're okay with that, then yeah, come sign on up. But yeah, if you're someone who wants to be a high volume guy, show that you're still winning off film, which Tyler believes, and show that you can really help an offense win. Yeah, this is probably just not the place. This is probably an offense that's probably going to use 2 receivers as much as anyone else in the league. 12 personnel, 21 personnel. I expect them to sign a fullback. Not to say that a third receiver won't catch passes, but yeah, if you're just a guy who's, you're a Tyler, you're a D-Hop, you're a Cooper Kupp, some of these veteran guys who are on the market who are used to being a guy, a certain level of volume, this is just not one of those spots to be like signing up to play. I'm trying to think of some other teams with like 12 personnel, like going to the Niners, they use a lot of 2 receivers, being their third guy ain't much, It took Juwan Jennings several injuries to pop as their number 1 guy. He was their number 3 for a while. So yeah, I think I'd be surprised if Tyler came back on that number, but honestly, the more I look at it, if he wants to ball, this is probably not even the place for him, just from a pure football standpoint.
Draymond Jones, at the time of the signing, the largest contract, as you wrote about, that John Schneider ever handed out for an external free agent, 3 years, $51 million. It just hasn't worked, right? I mean, for whatever reason, the fit and whatever, it just not a fit here, has not been producing. Okay player, but making money that is not for just an okay or good player. He's making money as an elite player, and this feels like this has been the most obvious one as we get into the offseason that he'll be off the team.
Yeah, it feels obvious to me for that reason. It's not even that he's a bad player. It's just the way they've done the deal. They restructured it last year, which I thought was a bad idea. They restructured his deal, so now his cap hit is huge. He's paid like top 10. He's like a hybrid inside pass rusher, outside pass rusher, however you want to classify him. He's making top 10 money by both positions. When you go look up the guys that are in his cap number ranking, it's guys like TJ Watts and Brian Burns and stuff like that.
It's crazy. You wrote about it. He's got the 5th highest 25 cap hit behind Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, DeForest Buckner, Payne. It also puts him with the edge rushers, where he's the 6th highest with Bosa, Watt, Burns, Chubb, and Max Crosby. I mean, that is amazing. That's, to be clear, that's not even Draymond's fault, right? Sure. Like, they can unilaterally restructure deals and their choice to pay him. But when you get that money, now we view you as those type of guys. Like, if we were just even to look at the dudes he's ranked just above, to round out the top 10, he's just not producing like that. They signed him as like, okay, you could be our new Michael Bennett, which they've now told like 5 different guys when they've acquired them. LJ Collier, Rasheem Green. I'm probably missing some where they're just like, yeah, we need that Michael Bennett. Inside, outside, it's like we got to just acknowledge there's only one Michael Bennett. Like, the football guys just made one of those, maybe 2 if you count Calais Campbell. That's it. There's Calais Campbell, there's Michael Bennett. There will never be any more of that skill set here, I think. So they told him that, and then they almost immediately converted him to outside linebacker when Chenna got hurt. That didn't work. They had him drop some weight last offseason, come in and just play outside linebacker, which is just not really the best use of his skill set. He can do it, but it's just, he's not an elite outside linebacker. And again, they're paying him like one. I wouldn't even be opposed to bringing him back, but that's just one. If you don't release him, you probably have to just totally tear it up and restructure, kind of like they did with Tyler last offseason, just sign a completely new deal, add some void years, which I think his current deal already has, spread it out even further. Just, that number is untenable for the production you're getting. He's like your 4th best outside linebacker, probably. Yeah. And that's just when everyone's healthy. And he's got the highest cap hit out of all of them. That just, you can't have your books be balanced that way. Yeah. Now, when we get to Nwosu, this is an interesting case study because, to your point that you wrote about, when healthy, he's their best edge defender. I don't think there's really a debate with that. But the concern is that he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. Certainly not a fault of his own. I mean, injuries happen in this sport. His cap hit is $21.1 million. His dead money, if you release him the pre-June 1st, as you wrote, $19 million, or $12.5 post June 1st. What do you expect them to do with Chenna Nwosu?
So, man, this is a tough one. He's also got like some guarantees coming up. I think like $6 million of his deal becomes guaranteed here pretty soon. I think they pushed the date back. It's supposed to be Valentine's Day, I believe. This is the tricky one because I'm a big Chenna guy. Because I just imagine the best version. You know, sometimes you do that with a player you like. You know, I just imagine the healthiest version of Chenna, and I can just see it. He's just wrecking stuff. I'm used to seeing it. But he's played, I think, 12 games in 2 years. You know, that's really hard to reconcile. It's very similar to Abe Lucas on the other side. It's like, as Clint Hurt would say, and you can't make the club in the tub. You know, it's very, very tough. I love that.
That's
saying.
a great line. Never gets old.
It never does. I would expect him to tweak his deal. I'm not really sure how. So what I would do, I would probably do like they did with DK's deal, is restructure it and try to push money out as far as I can. Because DK and Chenna, they're almost the same age. I want to say they might both be 28-ish. So like they're in their quote unquote primes for their respective positions. So if you can bank on DK being healthy and good for the next couple of years, I think you can with Chenna as well. And I mean that by adding the void years, because it seems like this new cap guy they have, Puck, I think his name Joey Lane, replaced Matt Thomas, their longtime cap guy. I think Matt was there for about 11 years. He was a lead negotiator, salary cap nerd. They got Lane, who was with the Bears, and I think is with the Saints as well before that. He seems a little bit more willing. I haven't analyzed every deal, but he seems a bit more willing to use void years, which is important because that's basically how you cheat the system. Really, it's like, all right, throw just void years, future money, we'll deal with it later type of stuff to keep everyone's cap hit low, to keep your core together. And I think the way, if you're the Seahawks, the way I imagine them keeping Chenna is and rationalizing that decision by maybe throwing some more void years, pushing the money down the road, is because they want to win. Now, if you were like in a rebuild mode, Chenna's the type of deal you just shed. But if you want to win, which I know they do, I think you got to try to kick that can down the road and just deal with the dead money and stuff and the void years later and try to keep Chenna at a lower number, something just under 20 million. Even though 20 million is a lower percentage of the cap now that it's gone up, but it's still just a really high number. So I think you got to push that money down the road. That's what I would expect them to do. Just probably take a little bit to figure out because they got some of these other guys we're talking about to handle first.
All right, let's get to Geno Smith. I said we would table it. Let's get to Geno. The deal there on Geno Smith, it's not, they don't really have to do anything if they don't want to, but they most likely will. His cap hit is $44.5 million. As you wrote, if you save the money that you save by releasing or trading him is $31 million. His dead money's $13.5 million. He's scheduled to have the 8th highest cap among NFL quarterbacks this season. You look into the crystal ball, the Dugar crystal ball. It's going to tell you what do you envision them doing with Geno Smith?
Man, I was crunching some numbers on this too, Puck, when I was writing about Ernest. Man, it's expensive to have competency at quarterback. Woo! It is expensive. I don't think people I knew this because I was there obviously when they signed the deal. But I don't think Seattle fans realize how much of a bargain Geno Smith has been the last couple years, man. Even if you think Geno is average, whatever. You look at some of these contracts on guys like Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray, Derek Carr. These guys are no one I just named is making less than $37 million. And only one of those guys I just named is making less than $40 million. Like, that's how much it costs just to get a Daniel Jones, a Derek Carr, a Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, even, Trevor Lawrence is making 50 plus. Oh my God, it's bad out here. So I say that to say this is going to be a tougher negotiation than I probably had thought when I really dove into the numbers, because I think if I'm Geno's guy, and I put my crystal ball agent hat on real quick. If I'm Geno's guy, I'm looking John Schneider dead in the eyes and said, our guy is worth $45 million, like by the market. That, John. If you tell me no, we have to start yelling at each other. Like you have to tell him that.
And now, you have no leverage because you have nobody on the roster.
What else are you gonna do? Like, what else are you gonna do? Like, that's what Geno's worth. Like, you just look at the numbers, you look at the production, even if you account for age. You look at what Stafford wants a new deal right now. Stafford's around Geno's age. Kirk Cousins and I think Geno are almost the same damn age. Like, even if you factor in, take out the younger guys like Brock Purdy who want new deals, you just look at the old 30 plus. Jared Goff is 30 plus. You look at what these guys are making, you gotta look John in the eyes and say, hey, my guy's worth $45 million. Like, if you disagree with like that just premise, whether you give them that or not, you disagree with that, like, we have to start yelling at each other. You don't have a draft pick to go get a better guy. Your owner, your boss is telling you want to win. So let's start there. And I think it's probably gonna sound crazy to some fans. Like, Mike, we should just move on if we got to pay Geno $45 million. I'm just like, guys, even that's a bargain. Like by week 1 of the season, I don't think $45 million will be in the top 10 in terms of average annual salary. It barely is now.
It's
with
why
Kyler.
they need to have their own cap. I swear to God, the quarterbacks need to have their own cap. That's it. And like, it's separate from what else money you spend on the team. Just give them their own
doesn't
salary.
soccer have something like that where you get like one guy who's
I thought
separate?
Yeah, the NBA. I got to remember. I think the NBA used to do something like this. I think it was after Larry Bird, the Bird rights. Something about your free. You could sign your free agents to a different deal. Your own free agents. That wouldn't count as much against the cap. So
they need something like that.
Yeah,
you got to get just one like super contract like the WNBA has with like the super. I think it still counts on the cap, but like the one just a super like this guy, whoever it is. Well, you can be Micah Parsons, it can be Saquon Barkley, it can be whatever. Sure. Like this guy is separate because it's tough. I think they're gonna have to do something like that though. I think they're gonna have to do a more expensive, to finish my crystal ball thought, a more expensive version of what they did before, like here on paper. You make like 40 plus, but in reality, we have all these like deadlines and dates and triggers that if you stink, we can get rid of you, around this time next year, which is essentially what his deal was. His deal was very much a series of 1-year contracts that were basically rolling over. Remember, we used to have that with our football coach. I think like that was Bill Moose's last gift to us, was to just like the
basketball. It was Ernie.
Oh, it was basketball.
It was Ernesto.
Yeah. The contract would just kind of just keep
Ernie
rolling
Kent's.
over. Yeah. So it was always like a 5-year deal or something, like some weird funky stuff like that. Geno kind of had something similar where it's just like you're basically on a really expensive prove it deal every year. And I think that's probably what they're going to do. I think on paper, it'll probably be like 3 years-ish, but with void years and with some triggers, you probably have them under contract, quote unquote, like 6 years or something like that. I really think that this has got to be the year, the void year offseason for them. I was looking at John Schneider's really close with Howie Roseman. I was looking at some of the Eagles contracts. If the Seahawks really want to copy the Super Bowl champs, that's what they got to do. Howie Roseman, he throws void years on everything. Like, I think Jalen Hurts' deal has like 5 void years. Maybe 6. His deal has void years. I think AJ Brown's does. Like Jalen Hurts' cap hit next year, Puck, it's the same as Chenna's. Think about that. Super Bowl MVP is the same as what the Seahawks are paying like an outside linebacker right now. Right. Jalen, I think, is scheduled to hit on his deal, and I'm using him because this is important for quarterbacks and how you want to build your team. Jalen's never going to count more than 13.4% of the salary cap by projection until 2027. For comparison, Dak's eaten up 30 this year, 30% of the salary cap, or at least what it was projected to be. Like the way that they're doing deals over there is what like going quote unquote all in looks like. I think even Zach Bond's deal had like 3 void years on it. And that was a 1-year, $3 million deal. I think that's the path they got to take because they want to win. The Seahawks want to win. And that's what it looks like in today's age. You can't just count on hitting on a bunch of cheap dudes like you did in 2010 through 2012. You got to find a way to keep the core you have, and it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to tell your ownership, hey, man, pull out the American Express, trust my vision, swipe it, and we can deal with it. We can call our accountant later after we get down from our championship parade, which is basically what the Eagles are doing now. The Seahawks have the core. They got Chenna's, they got Draymond's. Even if you want to do it with Tyler, you could. Geno, DK, they have a lot of levers they can pull. They have a decent core. The Seahawks are not a bad team. But you just can't live in this middle world where it's like we want to have clean books and we want to be a contender. That just doesn't work in today's NFL because more teams are willing to use these void years and defer all this money. More teams are cheating the system. If you don't catch up, then you're just going to be stuck in this middle ground contractually and like on the field.
There he is, the Dugar Report. Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter at Mike Dugar, co-host Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, which you can find on YouTube if you want to watch 2 handsome men talk football. Also listen to it on your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple. Of course, it's brought to you by Blue Wire there as well. Michael-Shawn with us every single week, brought to you by Georgetown's Tavern Beer, easy drinking domestic style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima hops, 4.2% brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's and Bodhisattva. You can find this up on YouTube as well. Please subscribe to the channel when you're there. Leave a comment. Also on the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find a podcast. Of course, always up at pucksports.com. Real quick homework assignment for you. Watch the We Beat the Dream Team documentary on HBO.
We Beat the Dream Team.
We Beat the Dream Team. We Beat the Dream Team. You're going to like it. You'll enjoy it very much.
Okay. About the 1992.
The 1992 college players that beat them in a scrimmage. It's. I watched it last night. You'll love it.
It's on my list. I'll add that. I want to watch the Court of Gold Netflix one too. So I'll just have a whole Olympics. I'll just my daughter's going to have to just stop watching the Wiggles with me. For a little bit.
Get caught up. It's what it's Mike. It's dad time. All right. You tell her it's dad time. I pay the bills around here. It's my time.
I need it, man. I'm wiggled out, man. I just can't watch the Wiggles.
It gets worse. All right, Mike. You're the best. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you, Puck. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
Again, big thanks to Michael-Shawn Dugar. We caught up with Mike earlier today. And again, his weekly appearance brought to you by Georgetown Tavern Beer, the brand new tavern beer from Georgetown Brewery, makers of your favorite beer, Manny's, Bodhisattva, Rogers Pilsner. It is a Pacific Northwest or lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops, a domestic style lager that's brewed here. See it right above. Hold on. Wait, right there. See, right there behind me. It is a wonderful, wonderful beer brewed here in our fine state of Washington. All right, we're going to wrap up the show a little earlier than normal. We got to go watch the Ballard High School gymnastics team bring home their first state title. By the way, they are featured in today's prep section of the Seattle Times. Go check it out. A wonderful story written up there by Terry Wood, talking about two of their seniors that are twins from Texas moving over to Washington a few years ago. And obviously, we're invested into it. Daughters on the team. We're super excited about watching them today to try and claim their first state title, which would be the first state title, by the way, for any school in Seattle in gymnastics. So, all right, go Ballard, go Beavs. Put us good thoughts today here for the Ballard Beavers as they get underway in their state championship today and tomorrow. We wrap up the every single daily puck drop with Hey What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One in North Seattle, restoration company that lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Our good friend Jerry Dipoto, Mariners general manager, was on our I said our, it's 23 years I worked there, so I can still say our, with our good friends Chuck and Buck. I listened to it. It's a good interview. In the past, the three of us probably have not agreed on everything with the Mariners. I thought they asked all the right questions. You're never going to win people over on what was asked and not asked. But I listened to it. And again, here, you can ask whatever you want to ask with him. He's a very good talker, and he's a very good politician. But he also stretches the truth every single time. Every single time he talks, he stretches the truth. And frankly, makes things up. Just does. Makes things up. And if you're not, listen, you're doing an interview, you're not quick enough to find it. You're like, what did he just say? He said something in the interview. There was two things that stood out to me. One was kind of towards the end. We don't think the players that the players that had bad seasons last year will have bad seasons again. That's part of the offseason strategy. Specifically talking about Garver and Polanco. Okay. So that's what you're banking on. You're just banking on two guys who had historically bad seasons. They won't have that again. One's coming off major knee surgery, and they're both getting older. Why that is part of your offseason plan. And again, it's disingenuous because this wasn't the plan. This wasn't what you said a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when you talked about heading in to the 25 campaign, talking about increasing payroll, which we're going to get to in a second because he didn't tell the truth on this. Donovan Solano and Jorge Polanco, that was not it. That is just so disrespectful to Mariner fans. And maybe you're protecting yourself because you want to protect ownership because really ownership doesn't want to spend money. I don't know. I mean, that's why I do know. I do know. That's why. But, God, it's just embarrassing. It's just embarrassing that you've got this collection of such young, great pitching talent. And you're going to piss it away because you guys just don't want to really go all in. You don't want to go all in. Let me get to the payroll. Because he said something in the interview that I'm like, okay. He said that they were one of two teams that grew their payroll since 2021. Okay? Two teams. Okay, so they've grown their payroll. They've also went backwards in their payroll. Their payroll is expected at $140 million this year. Payroll last year was $147. Their payroll in 23 was $124. The payroll in 22 was $111. 21 was $83. 20 doesn't count because it's COVID. 19 was $144. In his first 3 years as the general manager of this baseball team, 16, 17, 18, he had a higher payroll than he has now. You tell me how that makes any sense with inflation. You tell me how 9 years ago, almost 10, that they had a higher payroll than they have now. And in the 2 years after that, in 17 and 18, a dramatically higher payroll than they do now. You don't get to take a victory lap around because you've got a, quote, higher payroll than the last 2 years there in baseball because you don't have a higher payroll this year. You don't. You went backwards. Think about that for a second, Mariner fans. They went backwards this year. They didn't even spend all of the money they said they were going to have this year. Do you know that? They haven't spent it all. Think about they gave themselves, they governed themselves about what, $16 million? They didn't even spend it all. That's how pathetic this offseason's been for this team. Pathetic. And he gets he says things and he says them in a way that I think people believe him. Don't believe him. Don't believe. And here's the other thing. You talk about no pressure for 14 years being a general manager. He's had enough time to be a general manager, by the way. I'll tell you that. And it better end after this year if they don't make the playoffs. It better. Because he's been a general manager for 15 seasons, going his 15 years as running two organizations. Well, 3 had one year cup of tea with the Diamondbacks. He's made the playoffs twice. That's just, I don't, you name me another business where that's acceptable. Just not acceptable. Just not. He's not acceptable. The front office isn't acceptable, and this ownership group isn't acceptable. All right. But don't let them try to fool you with this. We were increasing payroll stuff because they didn't. They did not increase anything. They took a step backwards. Hey, What the Puck is brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Restoration Company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. Locally owned and operated. Make me your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. 206-817-8917. Visit them online at restoration1.com. North Seattle franchise. Full show up later on YouTube. Also on the podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Please subscribe, leave a comment, rate the show where you can. We will divide up, we'll split up Garafolo and Dugar today for you as well. Also, coming up tomorrow, we did kind of a best of the week. You're going to hear from Divish, Rob Staten, Tim Booth, and Dane Brugler because day 2 of the gymnastics state championship happens in the morning. It starts at 10 a.m. So we will be over there in Sammamish watching that. But we'll provide you with kind of the best stuff from this week. Great information from Tim Booth on the NBA. Dane Brugler, our NFL draft guru, who joins us now. 7 appearances. Episode 1 was this week. For Puck's Posse members, please sign up today, $5 a month. Also, Rob Staten's thoughts on the NFL draft, and, of course, Ryan Davis from Spring Training. So everybody enjoy that tomorrow. We'll talk to you back on a live show on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Go Ballard Beavers. We'll see you then. As always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no dice.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love you. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rob you. But you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for?
We'd like to send out a mailer.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!